Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to put a video series up here on my YouTube page to talk about a part of my life that those of you who've known me for a long, long time were probably wondering about, and those of you who know me relatively recently probably don't know anything about. And so what I wanted to talk about over the next 4 or 5 videos, and I'm going to try to keep them short. I want to talk about that span of my life where I was involved in the Christian church and the organized religion within Christianity, or that is in my case was Christianity. Please bear with me. I'm not going to edit these, so these are off the cuff, and it's getting close to my bedtime. At least this first one. So if I seem a little spacey and a little demure, I know that you'll understand why. I want to break up this series into 4 or 5 sections. Tonight I'm going to start with the first one to talk a little bit about my background in my relationship with Christianity and the church, and then I want to move into when I accepted the claims of the gospel. Moving beyond that, then I'll talk about the nurturing with in the context of that, and also go into without a lot of detail, but my time in full-time service to the church. I will, of course, then be talking about the end of my relationship with Christianity, with the church, my end of my relationship with faith, and go into some of the reasons that I later discovered why I became so deeply involved in the Christian church. It took a few years of counseling and therapy to really work through those reasons and the implications of those. And I want to talk just briefly a little bit about my life afterwards, coming out of the church, coming out of religion, coming out of the faith, and all of that, all of those things that go with that. So let me get started a little bit on the background. As some of you know, others of you may not. I'm just going to assume that the people that watch this have known me either my whole life, or of course, we just met within the last decade or 15 years or something. But anyway, I'm not going to mention that again. So I want to talk a little bit about the background. I grew up in a rural community in Michigan, and I was my family. Okay, well, mostly my mom, but my family was a part of a small mainline Protestant congregation, and I was baptized there as a child. Our denomination were what some Christians derisively would call Paedo-Baptists, where infants are baptized. They're dedicated to God, and the community makes a covenant with the parents that they're going to help nurture the child in the faith and everything. It really is beautiful. The whole issue of when people get baptized and when they don't, and how and when. That's one of those things that I had to deal with later. And growing up as a child, I can say I actually enjoyed going to church. It was a very nurturing, welcoming community, very warm, very loving. People knew it was a small community anyway, so you knew everybody in town. But the congregation that I was a part of was really it was a sub community of the larger community, to the extent that you could call it a larger community. And it really did feel as an extension of my own family. Many of my friends that I grew up with, we went to the same church. So, we'd get out of school and maybe see each other on Saturday, mess around, then come Sunday, well, we're going to see him again. It was fun. I got involved in some of the activities of the church. I wasn't there as much as some of the kids were, but I remember I sang in a youth choir, which was quite an experience. That poor lady that tried to organize that. Um, and I remember I would go to like vacation Bible school during the summers. Those were kinds of fun because they had some pretty cool crafts. I still remember a few of the things that we did in church, church functions, things that even up into my teens. Remembering a time where some other youth groups would come to our church from our ecclesiastical district, and so it was an opportunity to get to know some of the kids from other communities and things. So it was not, I did not have a bad experience at all growing up in the church. In fact, I still have very fond memories. And the last time I was in that church was when I was after Mom's funeral. I don't know if I'll ever go back again, but I really took time to soak it in. And every time I have gone back, at least past the church, all these memories come flooding back, and to each one is precious. Each memory is precious to me. So, no knocks about that. As I got older, though, probably starting around 14, 15 in there, I started pushing back a little bit about going to church. Mom didn't put up that much resistance. Um, I don't remember exactly the reasons why, but I suspect it had something to do with not wanting to get out of bed and get dressed up on a Sunday morning. But that wasn't a bad thing, because on the Sundays that I didn't go to church, I had some time to spend with Dad that I wouldn't normally get during the week, and I've got some fond memories of those times with him, particularly out back when he's got a chicken on the rotisserie, and he's out there smoking his filterless Camels, reading the Detroit papers, and even doing some crosswords while the chicken was cooking. Tigers game on the radio, those kinds of things. Really cool memories. And so at any rate, and when I enlisted in the Navy and took off, of course the church was really cool about giving me a farewell. I stopped going to church anywhere. I didn't really feel the desire to go. Didn't think there was any community that could be built. Oddly enough, or maybe it isn't so odd, but when I reported to basic training, it wasn't long before my company commander called me in. My drill instructor called me into his office, which was never a good thing. But I don't remember filling out a card. I don't know if I filled out an information card at the induction center in Detroit or whether it was at the recruiter's office. I don't remember. Maybe at Great Lakes. I don't recall. But I had put down on the card something about, I'd been involved in some church activities. I had been involved in too much community things growing up. So he decided that I'd be just the guy to be his religious petty officer, and for the company, for the training company, and he slapped a third class petty officer brevet promotion right on my collar, and all the responsibilities that went with that. I didn't get paid. I didn't get it. But my responsibilities basically was nothing more than making sure that we were all in good marching order on Sunday mornings, that anybody that wanted to go to their respective divine services, we'd fall in, and I would march them to church, and then we do the same thing back, just making sure everybody got over there, got back, in good order. And I was also the sort of a liaison between any information that the chaplain's office wanted to get out to get out to the recruit companies, and so if there was anything like that going on or information to convey to my shipmates, that was my job to do that. So that's as far as the church went when I was in the Navy. And then in 1984, my dad died suddenly. I wasn't like we didn't see it coming, uh, but we just didn't expect it to happen when it did. And it that was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. It took me a while to get over that, to really work through that. And it was out of his death and out of some of the uh, things I never got to say, some of maybe the some underlying issues that I never got to work out with Dad. The fact that I would that I just desired to see him again, or hope to, or wanted to, however. Uh, uh, was one of the reasons that I eventually accepted the claims of the faith of the gospel. Now, I remember that day that I decided to make that commitment was I went to church. It was a week or so after Dad had passed away, and I went with Mom to church. My sole intention was, number one, to support Mom. I just thought she would like for me to go, and the other one was I kind of wanted to be the spokesman for the family, and again acknowledge our gratitude to the care and the compassion and the generosity that the church showed our family, uh, during this whole process. And I don't remember what was said, and I didn't feel any in the homily. I didn't feel any particular uh, regret for my own transgressions. I didn't feel guilty about anything that I'd done. But the message that connected with me was that it was through accepting the claims of the gospel was the way that people could go to heaven, and people who went to heaven would see the people that they loved, and that sort of thing. So that was, I think, in fact, I'm sure that because after I worked through the trauma of my religious experience some 15, 20 years later, that came out in counseling, that it was my desire to reconnect and to tie up some loose ends, um, with my dad, to communicate with Dad, to see him again, that drove me to the acceptance of the claims of the gospel. So I remember very clearly that Sunday. One thing that was really odd at that, I remember one of the people in the church, after I'd gone forward and had made a public expression of my desire to do that. I remember some guy saying, "Well, don't let the devil have you back again." And at the time, I thought that was really odd because I didn't know the devil had me. So that was just, that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I thought, well, where have I been? Later on, I found out what he meant by that, but it was really strange at the time. It's like, well, okay. Um, so anyway, after I left, went back to active duty, went back to my duty station, I started to connect with some men that I knew there that had some faith, some religious background, a religious experience, and they were active in their respective churches. And I also joined a congregation just off the Navy property that happened to be the same denomination that I grew up in. And I was very fortunate that in that community I found a lot of what I had in my hometown. So it was like I'd come full circle. Here I am as an adult now, going back to an experience that I had as a kid. So there was really, that connection was made again, and so it was there that uh, I got involved in the church things again. Their charitable work, their community work, their gatherings. I was in a men's group. One year they put me in charge of the men's group, and I had no idea what I was doing. Still don't. I'm still baffled by that. Basically, again, just disseminating information and trying to organize, you know, guys to get going in one direction. It was anyway, way over my head. I don't know. I guess because I was the new guy and nobody wanted to do it, which is usually what happens in the church. And but I started making some significant connections with the people there, and that's where I met my first wife. And out of that, of course, I've got two wonderful daughters, and so that I'm always grateful for that experience, and that experience led me to that point, and for that I'm grateful. So in that church, I started going back to Sunday school. I was involved in a couple of groups that they were really had some intensive did some intensive reading in the scriptures. And people there were, the teachers would explain things to me and to others in the class about what certain things meant, how they applied to our temporary lives, and things of that nature. Things I'd never really gotten before, even in confirmation classes or in my own Sunday school classes as a kid, because we basically just dealt with the stories and sort of the moral of the story is without any real connection. So it was a little bit more, if I can use this word concerning the church, a little more sophisticated as an adult. And so there were things about the things about things in the Bible I'd never thought of before, things I'd never seen before, connections that I never even thought to make concerning humanity and the world and my life and the lives of others and those sorts of things. So it was really kind of started to stimulate me intellectually again, because for a few years when I was first in the Navy, I never studied anything but coursework regarding my job. So it was, at least it got me thinking. This got me thinking again. And so at any rate, there came a point, and this is where I'm going to start winding up the video. There came a point when I was involved in that I really came to enjoy working with people and helping people and being part of the community that helped other people. That part really, really appealed to me, and building community, among groups of people. And so that's when I began to think about maybe going into service in the church full time. And so that's an aspect that I'm going to bring up in the next video. I'm going to be talking about I'll be talking about the lifespan of my faith, I guess, to the extent that I had faith. I'll talk about the death of my faith, or the end of it. What brought me to just walk away from the claims of the gospel and the claims in the Christian scriptures, and how that process occurred. And it was very, very gradual, and there were a few really clear final moments. And then I want to talk about my post-Christian life, and post-Christian living, and talk a little bit about how therapy has been so invaluable to me since then. In my service in the church, I'll talk about some good things. I mean, there were some good things there, but I'll also bring up some pretty tough things. There were some very traumatic experiences, both for myself and for my family. That I never. I mean, they hit me upside the head, because having come from two warm Christian communities, maybe they were there and I didn't see them. I was not exposed to them. And then when I went into serving the church in a full-time capacity, and I started seeing all the other things, the very unpleasant things, that was a real wake up call for me. And then I'll go a little bit about, and I end it by, how I'm enjoying life on my terms instead of under the yoke of the expectations of other people and that sort of thing. So anyway, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a comment below, thumbs up, thumbs down. It doesn't matter to me. It's good to hear from you anyway. So yeah, I'll leave it here and see if I can't. I'll catch you next time. Don't know when. Maybe a week, maybe longer. But I'll see you then. All right. Take care.